Coming up on the CHGO Cubs podcast, can the Cubs turn a surplus into a star like Kyle Tucker? Oh, it's Dream Tuesday. Plus, is Rizzo staying in the division? And Dansby had surgery. It's the #1 Cubs podcast in the galaxy. CHGO Cubs next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast. It is Tuesday, December 10th. That means day 2 of Major League Baseball's winter meetings down in Dallas. Our guy, Ryan Herrera, is boots on the ground. He's there. He was there yesterday, got all the sound bites, flooded our social media with it, hit the Twitter space, Instagram, TikTok.
Did he hit the talk?
I think he hit the talk. I don't know. Sent out exclusive stuff for the diehards, but good time to sign up to be a diehard. We got like 800 new ones just this month. In the last month, about 800 new diehards. And we got lots to talk about today. Dreaming about Tucker. That was one thing that came out. We have surgery for Dansby came out. We've got maybe a new catcher, it appears, and some former Cubs that have landed in places that make me feel a little bit icky. But we do start the podcast with something that is a reminder to all of us that the winter meetings, while they can be depressing and we can't get all worked up about them like we do because we're fans, it is not the most important thing in life, of course, right? Mm-hmm. Ryan Sandberg, of course, Cubs Hall of Famer, went right before he had his statue released this summer. He announced on Marquee that he was cancer-free. His prostate cancer was undetectable, and everything was going great. And today on Instagram this morning, he put out that the cancer has relapsed. He just found out, and it has not only relapsed, it has spread. And so he will go with a more intensive treatment. He's starting it up. He's staying positive. He's staying upbeat. But obviously, thoughts, prayers, all the good energy you can send Ryan Sandberg's way as we think about Rhino and his family.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah,
Sucks,
and not just that, all the people that are going through cancer treatment right now or have gone through cancer treatment. A lot of those people attach themselves to Rhino's hope, Rhino's great story of success, right? Like He attacked it, he beat it, it was down, and now he's going to have to do it again. And I saw that Tom Ricketts put out a thing saying, listen, he's a world-class player. He's a Hall of Famer, and that type of attitude and all the things it took to become a great baseball player will help him in this fight. And we certainly hope it does, and we hope everybody else that's going through it can fight along with him, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's cancer sucks, as people say.
And everybody knows somebody, right?
Yeah, we all know someone. One of my grandparents passed from cancer, so a long time ago. But yeah, like all of us have gone through. I've had a family member probably like the odds.
Friends going through it now.
It's just friends going through it now. So, Rhino's a guy who, like you said, he spreads so much positive energy and hope throughout this process, and that's something that I really commend him for. And because we've all gone through crap in our life where we get down and like we still feel pretty good that we're gonna be here in 6 months, right? And like when someone with cancer of all things, and he continues to have that kind of positive energy and impact and bringing hope to people, it's something that you can't just let go like as nothing. Like it means something. It's a testament to the type of person he is. So that's something that through like going through this process with him since he was diagnosed, last year?
Yeah.
Like, that's something that I've really...
About this time last year, I'm trying to figure out exactly when the time was, but it's, he went through all the treatments and it went really well.
That's something, though, that I've really, like, gained an even bigger respect for him for. Because, from the baseball field or whatever, I didn't really get to watch him because I'm young, or I was not even 10 years old when he was playing with the Cubs, at least in the back half of his career. So I don't resonate with him that well. But when it comes to the legacy that he has left and in all of that, to be able to be as positive as he has during this process, it's something that I really respect and commend him for. So we're wishing him the best, and hopefully he beats it again.
Yeah, when your team has a Mount Rushmore of guys, right? Hall of Famers, whatever you want to call them, the flags that hang on the poles out there, you want every one of them to be like Ryne Sandberg. Is there a better face of what you want your franchise to look like? Ryne Sandberg? I mean, built himself up from a prospect into a Hall of Famer and has dealt with adversity multiple times, obviously. And so we wish him well, and we hope everything's going to go well, especially through the holiday season, which will not be easy. And, of course, the treatment is definitely not easy. Yeah. We are going to talk about the Kyle Tucker rumor that kind of got started by John Morosi a little bit, but there's been a little buzz about it. Hopefully Ryan's going to be able to join us in the second half hour of the show. Shout out to everybody in the live YouTube chat. Becky, we're thinking about your sister who's dealing with cancer as well. Sign up to be a diehard, but also subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page. If you're listening to this in podcast form, that is, I'd say it's the most fun way to enjoy the CHGO Cubs experience, because we can, we're just hanging out for an hour every day, talking Cubs baseball and whatever else happens to come up. I will say this before we get to Tucker, the Dansby thing caught me off guard. We knew that Nico had surgery, right, on his arm, and we talked about how that may impact whether or not, if he were a guy that the Cubs were looking to trade because there may be a surplus at second base, whether or not that would have any impact. Then we find out at the winter meetings that Dansby had surgery, core surgery, as I believe Craig Counsell.
Didn't he describe it as like a hernia?
Yeah, he said hernias.
Hernias?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He described it as he put a plural on that. So obviously he played through it, but would not have been very comfortable. This is what Craig Counsell had to say about the middle of his infield now, both coming off of surgery this offseason.
I think we have two very good players up the middle they're going to have injuries this year. They're going to deal with stuff this year. That's part of playing every day. I mean, I would say, grateful we have two guys that will go out there with things going on and still give really good efforts and still be productive players. I think every player goes into a season hoping, hey, this is the year I'm going to feel really, really good and not going to get bit by any of the injury stuff. I think in both cases they dealt with some stuff. It's both things that they were able to stay on the field with. But and like we said, it affects you, right? So I don't have a prognosis that they're going to be healthy, 100% this year. I think both of them, are going into camp knowing, hey, I'm in a really good spot right now. And that's always a good feeling.
So, I mean, interesting. The one, not only always concerned anytime your highest paid player has off-season surgery, and obviously had multiple injuries. Like, this isn't the injury we were talking about when we said maybe this is what slowed him down last year. I don't know when the hernias happened, but we know there was a knee injury at some point early in the season that definitely seemed to slow him at the plate. And frankly, it may have slowed him in the field when early on he just didn't look like Dansby Swanson. So what concerns me is exactly what he's talking about. No, we can't guarantee that they're not going to have injuries this year, but we think they're both going to be, good to go and feel good, yada, yada, yada. I'm concerned that the middle of your infield is coming off of surgery. I'm concerned that Ben Brown hasn't pitched in a long time. I'm concerned that Wicks has been injured, that, go on down the list. You're bringing in Boyd,
injury,
who's coming off of Tommy John has pitched since then, but still talking about a lot of guys that have had injuries.
Jameson Taillon and Shota Imanaga are probably the most durable pitchers that you can feel like.
And Taillon went through cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying a while ago, but I mean, it's not like.
Yeah. Am I missing? Like Kyle Hendricks, he's not here anymore, but he was healthy last year.
It's one thing. It's a reason to be positive about Taillon when we say like, man, I expected him to be a 1. I expected him to be this. Assad, same thing.
Assad had
durable is a thing.
He had an IL stint, but I thought the IL stint that Assad had more to do with the amount of innings that he had pitched more than an actual injury. But that's me being a conspiracy theorist. But yes, this team has a lot of dudes who have recent injuries, man, and like this is. I will say, as much as I have criticized Jed and all of them, Jed talked about yesterday about how depth is really important, and like we've talked about depth a lot the last couple of years, and we question, is it good depth? Like sure you're gonna have a few of your potentially you have some of your top 100 prospects debuting this year if whoever you're going to have and stuff. So that's good. That's good depth. You have a lot of really good outfield depth for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think even on the infield, you do have some good depth, but are those guys as good as Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner? No. I think if Ian Happ or, even PCA were to have to miss some time, you have enough. You have some high upside outfield options that could probably get you through for a little bit, And I didn't say Seiya because I just don't know what the plan is with him, considering how bad his outfield defense was last season and all that. But related to Dansby, though, like I understand a lot of fans who have we talked about like when we did the grades, we talked about how he's like so polarizing among the fan base because he's the highest paid player on the team.
He's like a starting Bears quarterback. He's so polarizing.
And I've defended him a lot because I understand what Dansby Swanson is. Like he is an elite defensive player who, can be just a smidge above a league average hitter, but he's a streaky hitter. He's not consistent enough as a hitter to be relied upon to drive in runs, and he's never been that. And that's why I defend him. A lot of people, because he's getting paid all this money and that, expect him to be a run producer, and that's just he's never been that. I think you're setting yourself up for failure whenever you expect that from someone like him. However, it's been 2 years of Dansby. In the 2 years of Dansby, it just feels like and it's something that I respect, but it's also like a detriment too, because when it comes to him getting hurt, these nagging injuries or stuff, it always seems to come back to haunt the team. Whether it was last season, whenever he played through an injury for 2 weeks and then they put him on the injured list. I respect it. I really do. As just a person, as an individual, I respect a guy for going out there and toughing it out. And the fact that you played as well as you did in the second half of the season and then you end up having to have surgery, maybe I shouldn't be so, annoyed about this. But, like, it just kind of goes back to, like, sometimes he can be his own worst enemy. Like, dude, if you're not healthy, like, sit, So am I surprised that he had hernia surgery? Yeah, because it was all about the knee that we thought.
Right.
So if you had multiple injuries and you still was able to hit the way you did in the second half, I mean, I guess credit to you, but, like, I'm thinking about the big picture here, man. Like, guys are going to go through nagging injuries, this and that all season, but the Cubs should have better depth going into next season to where Dansby shouldn't have to play through injuries all the time. And also the Cubs coaching staff and medical staff has to be on top of this a lot better too. They brought in all these new dudes, the new medical staff and everything. They brought in all these new people to help fix this issue because we're talking about so many guys who've been hurt in the last 2 years. And it's like, are all the other teams like this too? I just don't feel like all the other teams in the league are like this either. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But that's something I feel like Dansby has to be especially as he gets older. He has to he needs to stop being his own worst enemy. So this hernia thing, when I heard him say, I'm like, what? Like, no one knew about any of this. So I don't blame you, Luke, for being concerned. I will say this, like the fact that they said that him and Nico should be good for spring training, good to go. Good. Great. But they also like are missing part of their offseason of what they do to train in the offseason and all this too. That's so right. It's going to take some time. It'll be interesting to see how those guys come back from the injury and how they play in spring training and stuff like that. So it's at the not even in the top 10 of my most concerned things with this team right now, but it is something to monitor for sure going into spring training.
And it was surprising. Coming up, we're going to talk about Kyle Tucker and we're going to talk about Southside Mike. But first, with 2025 right around the corner, now is your chance to save big on your next vehicle. The model year-end sales event is going on right now at Ray Chevrolet. Head in today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models with their special model year-end prices. Right now, take 10 to 20% off the MSRP on select new Chevy models, or shop over 125 vehicles they have priced under $20,000. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of the Chicago area's largest Chevy inventories. Visit our partner this December at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. And if you've heard of Ray Chevrolet, you already know about Ray's Price Promise. Their guarantee to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking about on the CHGO Cubs podcast are what you can expect to be the same prices when you shop at Ray Chevrolet in-store or online. So shop the model year-end sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. Hey, did you know that ComEd can help businesses save money by becoming more energy efficient?
Oh, Luke, I had no idea.
I saw it on a billboard on the way in right at 90 in Belmont today. Yeah, the energy efficiency program can help find up to 35% in energy savings.
Wow. So what do businesses have to do?
All they have to do is sign up for a free facility assessment at ComEd.com/biz. Saw it on the billboard. I was stopped in traffic. I read the whole thing.
Wow. ComEd.com/biz?
That's right. I think sometimes maybe people forget the website. You think that's it?
Yeah. Like ComEd.com/biz. ComEd.com/biz. ComEd.com/biz.
You got it. I think you've got it. Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change. Actual savings will vary by customer's energy usage and rate. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is funded in compliance with state law.
Did I skip a line on that ad read?
Yeah, we ad-libbed it a little bit.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
My bad. Either way.
Beautiful.
I like Mike Dubs as we transition to Kyle Tucker. I like Mike Dubs' comment. He says, trade Belly for Tucker, then trade Nico for Castillo, then trade Paredes for Mason Miller, and let's go. Yes, I know it would take prospects. And the reason that I like it is because he says trading Paredes for Mason Miller, like that will actually happen.
Yeah, right.
And I listen, I was thinking about this coming in. To going down Lakeshore Drive. Obviously, yesterday's episode felt like more of a therapy session because I don't know when I'm going to get over this Juan Soto stuff, and I'm not going to bring it up today. But I was thinking like, wow, when I left yesterday, to stop thinking about the Cubs for a little bit, I listened to CHGO Bears, and I realized, wow,
that's depressing.
This made me even more angry than the Cubs do.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like in my head coming in today, I was like, all right, for a little bit, I need to insert a little delusion, a little bit of optimism. Thanks. Because I've just been so mad. And honestly, it's making me not want to care. And that's not good for me personally. So with this Kyle Tucker stuff, John Morosi mentioned it, I'm like, I'm ready to be hurt again. Let me believe. I'm going to dream a little bit, brother. Like, I would, and this is, again, if you get, I haven't said it yet, but just put in the idea that they would do whatever they can to get the extension done. I would send literally any of these outfielders that the Cubs have, any of them for Kyle Tucker. I would send any of them.
If you could have an extension done.
Yeah, if there's an extension done. Casey, Alcantara, I don't, you got to throw in Bellinger. I would send any of them because Kyle Tucker is that dude. He is that dude. When healthy, he is that dude. He's been a near 5-WAR player the last 4 years. This is the move that we've been talking about, Luke.
Yeah.
If we're not going to spend money, Kyle Tucker is that dude.
You're getting me excited. Listen,
when you have that line about who's a superstar, I don't know if he's a superstar, but he's a star player.
He's a star player. He's a bigger star player than anybody on the Cubs.
He played only in like 80 games last year, and he still put up the same numbers that Ian Happ did. He had a higher WAR than Ian Happ did last year, and he only played in like 80 games.
78 games he played in. He would have been second on the Cubs in home runs.
Yeah. Oh,
come on.
Dreaming. I'm dreaming. Let the Delulu
in the last 4
flow
years,
through my veins.
Last 4 seasons he's played, Kyle Tucker, 30 home runs, 30 home runs, 29 home runs, and 23 home runs in 78 games with the stress reaction in his leg. I keep asking, would somebody on this team please, for the love of all that is holy, please somebody hit 30 home runs?
Yeah.
You're looking at a guy that hits 30 home runs. He's left-handed. He's young. He's not 30 yet.
28
next year. That's a guy you can invest in. And John Morosi basically said, listen, the Astros came out and they were the buzz of the lobby yesterday because their boss came out and said, we will listen to offers on anybody, including Tucker and Framber Valdez. Now, Framber Valdez is a lefty, and boy, they seem to be stockpiling lefties, but whatever. Tucker's the one that popped a lot of ears in Cubs Nation because if indeed you are moving Cody Bellinger, which sure seems more likely than ever,
especially after Sahada,
you're still going to need another left-handed bat. And here's a guy that you could look for the future and say, I like that bet better than I like the Bellinger bet. And he'd only make like 16 to 17 million in arbitration this year. So he'd be saving tons of money this year.
Save 10 million, yeah.
Right? And maybe you can get the deal done with him. And maybe because it could also potentially be a 1-year rental, maybe it doesn't cost you as much as some of the other deals out there. Now, I don't think the Astros would ever be interested in, this is not to throw water on Mike Dubs, why would they be interested in Bellinger more expensive for 1 year when he can opt in if they're really trying to like. Well,
that's why you'd have to throw in Owen Casey or Kevin Alcantara, whoever one that they want.
Yes, to give him another year to.
And even though he only has 1 more year, like you still have to send something because Kyle Tucker is good at baseball. I think Greg Zumack, who's been on the show many times, last night he tweeted out like what the Padres got back from the Yankees for Juan Soto last year. And like, listen, in hindsight, I guess it didn't work out for the Yankees because Soto didn't stay.
Right.
But like I feel like it wasn't this huge deal that it wasn't as big a deal as like what the Nationals got for Juan Soto, So I do think that the Cubs have the prospect capital to be able to do that. And I think personally that the Astros would like to have that 1 year of Bellinger, and if he opts out, great. So, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Astros because I guess their owner has never given a contract over 6 years or something like that.
Well,
I think it was a tweet I was reading from Buster Olney today. I don't know. But the point is that, like, the Astros are likely to not pay this guy. And so can they move him now for the value or do they wait till the trade deadline? I mean,
it's like Correa.
Yeah.
They found a guy that they thought they could put in there and do it a little bit cheaper and try to keep the ball rolling in their long run of success.
I just think that Theo Epstein, what did Theo Epstein once say? He said, like, if not now, when? This guy makes the most sense. He makes so much sense for this team. Left-handed power bat. You don't want to pay Bellinger? All right. And you're still finding a way to upgrade if you include Bellinger in that trade and move one of your 1,000 freaking outfield prospects. Like, when are they going to make the big swing? I asked it yesterday. This is the big swing, man. This is the big swing, and then you have a year to convince him to stay. And if you make a trade for a guy like him, then you really could potentially be entering into what I would call a winning window. And, of course, they can't just stop with Kyle Tucker. If they make the trade, they can't just stop.
Roki and Tucker, oh my.
They still got to get a starting pitcher. They still got to, continue to they're linked to Kyle Finnegan, Kirby Yates, whoever. Like, they still have to make other moves if they were to perhaps make this trade for Kyle Tucker. But I personally do think that if they were to make that trade, it is a sign that they are at least trying.
Yeah. Well, here
that's what I want.
The chat wants to talk about this, okay? And Matty Ice 98 gave us a super chat for $4.99. We appreciate that. $4.99 super chat. He says biblical losses. Jason Hayward's 10 years ago. I don't think they shell out $400 million to re-sign him. That is the question that's being bounced around. What would it take to get an extension done or keep him after? Let's say he has you could trade for him.
Yeah.
And again, as long as he's staying with you, you don't care that you've lost Casey or whoever, because now you would have your outfield and your DH set for several years. So I don't know. I don't know what the number is. I don't know if it's 250. I don't know if it's as high as 400, something that Gary is talking about. I would think it's not as much because he's going to be closer to 30 than he is to 25 by the time that comes up.
Just think about the market, though.
Right, the market. So the bigger question is the move worth it if he's only a 1-year rental? Like, no question it's worth it for next year. Does it help the team next year? Of course, I'd love to have Kyle Tucker on the Cubs next year. I'd potentially be willing to let Matt Shaw go.
Yeah.
For Kyle Tucker.
This is a move. This is an organizational, defining move.
Yes.
Right? This would change the entire perception of the organization if they actually did this. Because as we talk about with Jed a lot and how he's risk averse, if Jed makes this trade, he knows what his budget is going into the future.
Then he has to get the deal done.
Then he has to get the deal done. He has to.
It can't end up like the Yankees. What if he ends up like the Yankees and then you get Tucker and he's gone?
Yeah, but he's not going to get $700 million.
But I agree. I think it's a potentially a contract that the Cubs could look at and say, all right, this isn't a $700 million player. This is somebody that we could extend and put our faith in like we did Dansby, and we could move forward with him surrounded by some of our other younger players that we still will have. I think it's a possibility. The big gamble is whether or not he would walk.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't think he would be willing to sign that extension right out of the gate unless you make it worth his while.
Sure. Well, if you're a winning team next year and you win the division and he loves playing at Wrigley Field and put him through the entire experience. I know the Yankees, it's so easy to look at Soto, but Juan Soto is different from Kyle Tucker. Complete different personalities, complete different people. I think if the Cubs were to actually do it, that they will have already decided within their front office that they would do whatever it takes to keep him.
Would you rather do what Niren is suggesting in the live YouTube chat, which is, well, you could get him for free in free agency if you're willing to wait one more year.
Yeah.
If he makes it there.
Yeah.
And run the risk of maybe he gets traded to, heaven help us, the Dodgers or somebody crazy, and he decides he loves it there and he does sign the extension. Or the Mets decide to go, completely crazy and they go after him. Would you rather hope that he gets to free agency and approach him that way, or would you rather take the risk on some of your other players? I saw somebody suggest, what would the Astros be interested in? Well, if they're losing Bregman, they might need a third baseman. Listen, I don't know that Paredes is the answer. If they would take Paredes and some prospects, I would drive Paredes to the airport to get Kyle Tucker. No offense.
I think you'd have to throw Bellinger in there too.
Okay. Yeah. What if it was Paredes and I don't know. I still think trading Nico is going to be difficult this offseason. Paredes, Bellinger, and one of your top prospects. Is that enough to run the risk to get a gamble on Kyle Tucker? I don't think I want to let him get to free agency. I don't.
Yeah, we've sat here and
they don't get free agents. Forget it.
Yeah,
what am I talking about? Get to free agency.
Didn't we just
getting to free agency means the guy's gone?
Didn't we just do an entire therapy session yesterday about the Cubs not even calling Juan Soto? Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like, would it make a difference if you traded for him and you tried to talk extension with him in season or whatever? I don't know. Like, this is the thing, too, is like, I don't know what Kyle Tucker prefers. Like, does he want to wait till free agency?
Probably.
Is he willing to talk about it in season? Is it something he'd be willing to talk about before?
Yeah, does he want to make a bet on himself? Right? Does he
does he want to own a hotel across from Wrigley Field's marquee?
When the Dodgers traded for Mookie Betts, they signed him like right before the season.
Yes.
They re-signed him right before the season.
Cody.
I don't know, man. Like, it's just something different. Like, it's for a really good player who's been consistently awesome for 4 years.
I asked for something surprising and exciting for the fan base. It would be surprising.
Oh my God.
And exciting.
I don't know. It's just whatever, man.
Surprising and exciting, much like some of our great sponsors, Cody.
Yeah, nothing gets me more excited than Blue Moon. All right. Blue Moon. Some beers can say they're brewed for baseball, but only Blue Moon is brewed for baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes better than the one that was literally born in a ballpark. Blue Moon was created at Coors Field in Denver, Colorado. Blue Moon isn't just another beer. Ooh, that sound. I love that sound. It isn't just another beer. It's a whole different experience. Why strike out with the same old beer when you can get something one of a kind? A beer this good only comes around once in a Blue Moon, but you can enjoy it all season long. Bring the ballpark to you with Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale. It's one of a kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon, made brighter. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
You know what goes good with a Blue Moon? Family Farms. Their culinary journey is woven with passion, dedication, and a commitment to crafting the finest bacon-wrapped chicken, a timeless delicacy that has tantalized taste buds since 1974. Join them on this flavorful adventure where every bite tells a story of tradition, quality, and the enduring spirit of Family Farms. The tradition continues. Now you can find Family Farms bacon-wrapped chicken even easier. Look for them in the meat department at your local Woodman's, Mariano's, Burcott's. Craving a taste of home without leaving yours? Check out baconwrapchicken.com or click the link for our Amazon store, which is also includes the legendary Rocky Rococo's Italian sausage, and find out their new amazing Cajun Nation flavors will be coming available when they're coming out with an authentic Louisiana bite. We've had it right here at CHGO. It is terrific. Experience the flavor that's become a family favorite for generations. Visit your nearest Woodman's, Mariano's, Burcott's, or on Amazon, baconwrapchicken.com.
Let's go.
It's a hell of a website.
Woo! They were out here cooking during the season.
Yeah.
I missed that day, and that is one of my great regrets of the season.
You did miss a good day.
I like Godfather's comment. Hoyer gets up at noon, has breakfast, then drives over to the Motel 6 by the time other teams are at lunch. Oh, man. Never changed, Godfather.
He also said earlier how it's hard for the Cubs to make deals because they're staying at the Motel 6, so they're not in the same building.
They're not at the same hotel.
I just thought he was just finding a new way to slant at Jed. So, you know.
Beautiful.
Also, like, Barb, you're always throwing narratives out there. And I'm curious, Barb, how would you literally tell us in a multiple comments on how you would make the Cubs better? Because based off your comments, you wouldn't do anything to change the team. And I'm genuinely curious, Barb.
You're sort of attacking the godmother, and I don't like.
Well, she's attacking me every day.
You are going to be happy.
She's
today.
attacking me every day. So I'm genuinely curious, Barb. How would you make the Cubs better when they've won 83 games in consecutive seasons, and not changing the team at all? Like, I'm genuinely curious. So
Shane says Rocky's agent said he might prefer a smaller market due to the media. Good thing for us, Jed runs this team like a small market team. Rocky to the Cubs, confirmed. Hey, if Jed can pull off this offseason, Rocky, Kyle Tucker, and Matthew Boyd, I'd be happy with that offseason. Now, would I have been much happier with Juan Soto? Yes. But
I wouldn't even call it a consolation though that if you got Roki and Kyle Tucker and Matthew Boyd,
No,
and
it'd be good
they're gonna add more relievers. They already had Eli Morgan. They've been linked to Kyle Finnegan, who I would love for the Cubs to get. Kirby Yates is also a name that's been linked to the Cubs. Like they're on the reliever market, and the guys that they've been linked to. And AJ Minter as well is another name that was thrown out there yesterday by Morosi that the Cubs could potentially get.
Niren's dreaming big. He's saying Tucker, Roki, and Crochet.
Yeah.
Speaking of Crochet, John Morosi says, quote, "It's increasingly possible that Crochet is dealt by the end of the winter meetings." End quote. He says the Red Sox seem to be the leading candidate for this because they may be willing to put
they have the
their
better
top shortstop in there.
Yeah, they have the better prospect capital.
But the other teams that he mentioned, Red Sox, Brewers, Reds, please don't let the Brewers or Reds happen, Orioles, and yes, the Cubs because of their farm system. So not ruling out the Cubs, and that they've always been in that conversation.
I know people are very. I mean, didn't we talk about Crochet last week? Like,
yeah.
It was very one inside of the other, very black and white from the reaction to the rumor. Like, Crochet has such a high ceiling if healthy, but also he hasn't proven enough for people to want to part from certain prospects. But man, when he's healthy, he's a stud. This is like I could say this literally with any other player that the Cubs could potentially trade for. If they're not going to spend money, then we have to get comfortable in our uncomfortable zone. Like that's just where we're at. This reality, folks.
It's like a therapy session.
It's reality. They are not going
just move to Iowa and start watching the Iowa Cubs.
They are not going to sign any big. They're not going to spend any money. Like it's trade market or bust for this. I mean, Jed even said it yesterday.
Des Moines,
if they shake up the offense any at all, he literally said it's more likely to happen via trade. So it's just reality. I think we just have to find a way to get comfortable in our uncomfortable zone. It's just, I don't know. Barb says that she would fire Jed. Listen, I called to fire Jed like 4 months ago. They're not going to fire Jed at the winter meetings, Barb. Give me something realistic.
Good croquette. I always like a good croquette. It appears that our guy, boots on the ground, Ryan Cowboy Herrera, is ready to join us from Dallas, Texas. You there, Ryan?
What's up?
Oh, there he is.
He's wearing a shirt today, like a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yesterday he was wearing a polo.
Or almost maybe is that a sweater?
Is that a public rec?
Is it a sweater?
It's not a sweater, just a shirt.
Okay, just a shirt. It looks like we have a graphic up on, I don't know if you can see the screen, but we have a graphic, a Winter Meetings logo, which is the snowflake. It sort of looks like you're wearing a snowflake sweater, which is nice. So what are you hearing out there? I mean, you wanted something to talk about yesterday. Plenty of topics, plenty of stuff going on. Anything new today?
Nothing new today, but I know, like, obviously we talked to Jed Hoyer after we did the show yesterday. And Cody, you just started talking about it that, Jed basically talking about that the way that they can improve this ball club, especially when it comes to the offense, is looking like it's going to come on the trade market. Jed publicly addressed, at least to local media members up in his suite yesterday, that they weren't shopping at the top of the free agent market. He said nothing precluded the organization from doing so, but that they kind of decided as an organization that this wasn't the time. They weren't going after the top free agents on this market, which obviously includes Juan Soto. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at. Like Cody, I remember last week Cody said that he wanted some clarity coming out of this, even if moves aren't made specifically. He wanted some clarity on a direction coming out of this, and I think that's a big thing. Is Jed saying it's looking more like it's going to come from trades of how they're at least going to be able to improve this offense. And I think that's kind of what we expected, but it's something that was finally said, and then we kind of have more clarity on that.
While we have a second, why don't we play that clip real quick that Ryan got yesterday from Jed Hoyer talking about the outfielders, because we just spent a lot of time talking about Kyle Tucker.
I think we, when it comes to the outfield, we have a number of whether it's prospects, whether it's major league players, we have depth there, but we also have really good players there. So I think every year I talk about this, but depth is really valuable, and we can move guys around to do different things. So if a deal comes to us that makes sense to trade out of our surplus, we can do that, but only if it makes sense for us.
What about DH?
What's that?
What about DH?
I think ideally you can kind of move guys through the DH spot. I think having a set DH is, unless that guy is a David Ortiz or an Edgar Martinez, I feel like it's best generally to like let guys kind of move around and use that as a day off. So I don't see us having like one set designated hitter.
There's two things there, Ryan. The first is that he's talking about that outfield depth and he has good players. I would suggest that none of those players are Kyle Tucker, if he is indeed available, as John Morosi has talked about. But the other is the DH thing, which we know that if Bellinger stays, we'll see a lot of Seiya probably at DH. If Bellinger is traded and maybe Tucker is added, you would see Seiya some at DH. He's talking about David Ortiz, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's the type of guy we keep saying to go get. Like, I know you don't have him, but that's who we're hoping you can go get. And I guess, as you mentioned, trades are the way it's going to go. So get busy. Make some trades.
Yeah, you telling me to get busy? You want me to make
Yeah, you too, Ryan. Get busy. No, you've been busy.
No,
Am I right?
Yeah,
like, he's going to have to actually do it now. It's great to talk about it. You have to do it.
Exactly, and that's kind of what we've talked about all offseason, even going back to, this end of season press conference when, you weren't on that show. Luke, was me, Cody, and Michael Cerami, our friend. But, I kind of said, like, I don't expect Jed Hoyer at the end of season press conference to lay out the game plan for the offseason. So I'm more worried about, like, what are you going to do? What are the moves? What are the actions you're going to do? I don't really need to hear the words. I would much rather see the actions. And so now he's given a little bit more of clarity on kind of what things are looking like, how the Cubs offseason has been shaping up, coming into the winter meetings. But yeah, I'm with you. It's what are you doing? What are you going to do? How are you going to improve a team so you're not running it back with basically the same group of a team that's won 83 games in back-to-back seasons? Hasn't been good enough. So yeah, he's going to have to get creative. He's probably going to have to make some trades to address that. But yeah, it's all about going out and doing it, and like you said, not just saying it.
My big takeaway from the clip that we just put out there is, like, and it's not a surprise, and this is why whenever people talk about, like, signing Pete Alonso or even trading for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is separate to the opinion of what I'm about to say, but, like, for instance, Pete Alonso, I would like him to be on the Cubs potentially if you're able to keep Michael Busch. He's not a good defensive first baseman. So I'm like, if you sign him, I would like him to be your DH and Michael Busch to play at first base. I really don't want to swap one out and move one. Now, of course, if just for the sake of the scenario, if you were to trade Michael Busch for whatever, I don't know, a pitcher, whatever, right? Like, maybe I change my mind, but I don't think the offense is going to be any better if you don't have both. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the point I'm making here is that Jed said in that clip that they don't want to have an everyday DH. They want to be able to use that position to get guys off their feet and as a way to give guys rest. And they've been doing that the last couple years. This isn't news to anyone. And that's why when people bring up Pete Alonso or could we move Michael Busch to second base or any of these things, it's just like with the way that they're talking and their philosophy on utilizing the DH role, I just don't see a guy like Pete Alonso fitting on this team unless they trade Michael Busch, which is something that I'm just not really into, considering Michael Busch is younger. He's a left-handed bat. And I just don't know if Pete Alonso will be any better than he has been. And the only thing Pete Alonso has that interests me is power. But will he be an overall productive player? I don't know. And again, this is just one particular scenario. So, like, I just think the whole DH conversation with the Cubs is like they want to utilize multiple guys in that role. So they're not like, I just don't see how a guy like Pete Alonso fits on this team unless you're trading Michael Busch, which is something that I just don't support. So I just wanted to throw that out there because we get asked a lot in the YouTube chat, on social media, I do at least, about like, would I be interested in Pete Alonso? Would I like this or that? Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is different. Like, I think he's light years better than Pete Alonso, and I would absolutely move Michael Busch for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So that's why I put them separate. Have them both. I would prefer to have them both, yes, but he is a guy that I also would be like, yes. But it's different with Pete Alonso for me. So it's just something that I feel like a lot of fans just like kind of throw out the window. Like they think, oh yeah, he can just be your everyday DH, this or that. And it also makes me wonder about like Seiya Suzuki, because last year Seiya Suzuki was the everyday DH the last 2 months of the year. And obviously I know you don't feel good about his outfield defense.
I do not.
You know, so like I'm interested, like it. I don't think any of us are taking the Seiya Suzuki trade rumors like seriously, but because of what Jed's saying about that, it does make me wonder, like, could it be serious if Cody Bellinger somehow, some way ends up staying? I don't think so, considering more and more smoke about Cody Bellinger continues to come out, but it's just something to ponder, to think about. Like, we'll see, but I just want to put that out there for people who are curious about that type of stuff.
I think Jed was asked a question about outfield depth, and he thought this is a good opportunity to let other teams that don't know, yeah, we would be willing to trade Cody Bellinger and or one of those prospects if the price was right. That's what I think that was. But what about Carson Kelly, Ryan? Where are we? Do we have our third catcher now? Is it official yet? Do we have 3 mid catchers yet, or are we just sticking with 2?
Well, it's definitely not official. I haven't gotten any updates. I mean, what was the last update was like that it was close, and that was like almost 24 hours ago. No, I mean, it looks like it's close. We're still kind of waiting on that. Jed wouldn't really comment on anything. Like, he kind of just basically no commented when kind of presented with a potential Carson Kelly question. But yeah, I mean, it's looking like it's close. Obviously, there was like we went into this offseason with like that was someone that on the radar as far as a catcher addition. Another one was Danny Jansen, who's off the market by now. But yeah, it looks like it's, if they do end up getting, coming to terms, getting him in, it's not a major needle mover of a move, I would think. But I think it's helpful in that you've got a credible second catcher to go along with Miguel Amaya, who showed really good signs at the end of the season, especially the last two and a half months, particularly at the plate. I think, the pitchers always rave about his game calling. I think he got better behind the plate as the season went on, and a lot of that's just going to come with more and more experience. But it's going into this season with the catchers like the Cubs already have now was going to be a risky move. Carson Kelly, like I said, is not like he's coming in as their number one catcher, clear number one catcher, but adds a little more credibility and definitely depth to the catching position for the Cubs, which they're going to need this year. They're going to need way better production out of that position this year, and I guess we'll see if an Amaya-Kelly tandem can do that.
I don't know if I can say that's an upgrade. We were saying that we have to have a definite upgrade, as Ryan just said, at catcher, and I don't know if hoping Amaya's going to be good, having Carson Kelly and Theis is any better than hoping Amaya is good and hoping Yan Gomes finds the fountain of youth again.
This is how I view the catcher role, because this is what the Cubs have basically said to us, because they didn't re-sign Wilson Contreras. They value defense from that position more than they do offense. Now, like Ryan said, Amaya's offense was better from July to the end of the year. Like, he was absolutely
horrible.
He was
offense.
Absolutely like below replacement level, or whatever the term is. He was terrible the first 3 months of the season, right? Then he changed his batting stance. He got rid of the leg kick or whatever, right? And he started to be a better. He had an insane August, right? Mm-hmm. Him and PCA had an insane August, right? So I don't mind Carson Kelly. I just think the point I'm getting at here is, like, they're going to do a tandem like they did with Yan Gomes and Amaya the last 2 years. And Carson Kelly, he's not the best catcher in baseball or anything like that. He was 99 WRC plus last season. The defensive metrics on Baseball Savant are fine. They're solid. I don't hate it, but yeah, like Ryan said, it's not a needle mover, but it's a move that I think they needed to do. I think the bigger thing here that I feel like is fair to have concerns about is the Cubs still having faith or hope in Miguel Amaya. And like, I think the offense, like we saw the last 3 months with Amaya on offense, I think that is a little bit more of what we should expect, but I need to see more from him on defense personally, because up until the last couple months, I mean, he was like, guys were running on him all the time at the beginning of the year. So we need to see a full season from Amaya to have some real, certainty from him, right? But he's young, and he was once a top 100 prospect in their system. Like it's very clear with them signing Kelly that they still believe in Amaya. Which, again, if you upgrade in other positions, I can get past going with Amaya and Carson Kelly. You know what I mean? If you add another starting pitcher, you upgrade your bullpen.
Roki.
Whoever.
And Kyle Tucker, then you're okay with
you add offense in another spot in the position player pool that you have, then I can get past going with Amaya and Carson Kelly, because to me, I value defense more from that position than anything else. And at least Kelly was giving you solid defense, at least based off what the metrics were last year. And he was a league average hitter as a catcher. So, I mean, I'll take that.
Hey, Ryan, quick quiz for you. Crochet, Tucker, and Bellinger. Which one gets traded first? You had to guess. I know this isn't based on anything other than, a little buzz you hear here and there. Maybe,
This is based off.
This is over a little Whataburger with, some colleagues.
I'll go Crochet.
Crochet first.
I know. I think our CHGO White Sox colleague Vinny Duber wrote about it yesterday, I believe. That I think said that Chris Getz is like in no rush to move Garrett Crochet. But that's a guy that's been on the trade market for a while. It's a guy that the name that's been floated out there for a while. So as I don't remember where I saw it this morning, but that the starting pitching prices are like still pretty high, at least free agent. Maybe another team decides like, let's just go get Garrett Crochet. Let's pay whatever whatever prospect capital or whatever that needs to happen to get him. Maybe that's the route that another team decides to go down. Not saying it can't be the Cubs, but I think that'd be my guess, and that's more of a guess than anything, but that's my guess.
What did you take out of, whether it was Boyd yesterday or Jed or Craig Counsell, was there anything that jumped out from any of them that was interesting to you? I mean, we talked about the outfield surplus. We talked about I'm a little fearful of having Dansby and Nico coming off of surgery in the same offseason, but is there anything else that kind of jumped out to you about anything anybody else said yesterday?
Well, the Dansby thing was the thing that kind of jumped out to me, and it they didn't hide it. They just the news came out a couple months after the surgery actually happened. It happened in early October, but the fact that he had played through, we don't even know, they don't even know specifically when the hernia happened during the season, but he played through a hernia for at least a portion of the season and kind of just kept it to himself. I'm like, in a way that's kind of like in character for Dansby, because he does want to be out there 162 games. He wants to be helping the team win 162 games out of the year, but it's also kind of like, I don't know. It's weird to think that like he wasn't exactly forthcoming about it, and the Cubs were surprised when he came to them at the end of the season or after the season. I don't remember specifically when he told them, but that he was going to go see a specialist and address it. That's kind of that was surprising for me to hear, because I don't know. It was a little bit. I mean, I wasn't as surprised as the Cubs, as we all were, that Dansby ended up needing to get that surgery, because there wasn't really any discussion about that or any word about that during the season.
Yeah, Cody talked about it too earlier, and I think you're right in that. Listen, I know Dansby wants to be Cal Ripken Iron Man, and it's admirable. But if I'm the manager and I didn't know about a hernia, I don't know if this is the case, but it sure seemed like Craig Counsell didn't know a whole lot about a hernia surgery that he was going to need. He knew about the knee, but it was already a game of, can I trust that his knee's okay? Do I need to put him on the injured list? Is his knee okay? Boy, he doesn't look good at short. Boy, he's not getting very many hits. If a guy, think about it. If you were trying, it's so hard to hit a Major League Baseball. That's why these guys get paid $700 million. If he was trying to do that with a bum knee and hernias, well, no wonder he would have had a poor season for a good portion of the year at the plate. Not making excuses. That's an excuse, right?
Well,
but at some point, if I'm the manager, I got to grab him by the shirt and be like, hey, man, not again. You're not going to put the team at risk just to show that you're the tough guy Iron Man. We appreciate it, but you have to be aware that there might be somebody that can do it better than you when you're injured.
Well, I think you have to note that Dansby did actually have a pretty good second half of the season. Like he had a 124 WRC plus after the All-Star break, which I'm assuming at least part of that was dealing with. Again, we don't know exactly when the hernia happened, but you're talking about 2.5 months where he had a 124 WRC plus. Like he was playing his Gold Glove level shortstop and was actually hitting very well, like way better than he did before the All-Star break. So I think that the point, and this is something that Jed had also said, is just like they didn't look like anything was wrong because he was playing well. So it was like, not only was there not like a lot of word going around that something was happening, but he was also playing well, so you didn't like expect him to be playing through something. So, but it's also like in a way a credit to Dansby that he felt like he could play through it and perform pretty well playing through it. So I think that needs to be noted, is that it wasn't like he tried playing through it the entire second half and was bad still like he was through the first few months. Like he had a really, really good second half actually, and that's kind of why I don't think anyone would have expected that there was actually something going on. Guys are always dealing with a little something, but that's more than a little something. But his performance
I wish I
really
knew
make it
when
seem that way.
I wish I knew when the hernia injury happened. Like if it all happened along with the knee in the first half of the season, is the second half better because he's learning how to play with the injury a little bit more? Is it he's getting more therapy and he's able, like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. It just seems odd that a guy could need off-season surgery and have had. I thought when I heard he had off-season surgery, I assumed it was going to be the knee.
Yeah.
Something seems off on a lot of guys playing with injuries and trying to play through it. And while it's admirable, at some point they have to be also held accountable. You're right. He did have a better second half of the season. Is that because it was bothering him less? I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't really. It's like the same thing with Nico Horner too. Like, he played well at the end of the year, and then he had to have surgery. It really doesn't make a lot of sense. But like I said earlier, like he can't be his own worst enemy. That, like, to me, that's how I view. Like Luke said, it's admirable, but hurting the team, man.
30 seconds. Anything else, Ryan, you want to tell us before you head off to do all your investigative work at Whataburger?
At Whataburger? I'm trying to think of anything we haven't talked about yet. I mean, like, the basics and things that we expected. The Cubs aren't done looking for starting pitching. I know, Luke, that alarmed you last week.
It did.
But that they're not out on starting pitching. They're not like out on bullpen. Obviously, we talked about the catching. Like, they're still looking for. They've addressed those in a way this offseason, but they are still looking to address those positions this offseason. Not a guarantee that happens, obviously, but they're not done looking for help in those areas because, I mean, right now we're looking at it as like those are the clear areas they can actually upgrade in free agency, whereas the rest of the offense is kind of like trades, like we talked about. Also, Matthew Boyd's grandfather, John, was apparently a diehard Cubs fan.
Diehard Cubs fan. That was cool. Passed away.
Lived in or grew up, maybe both, in downtown Chicago.
Nice.
That's
nice.
Pretty cool Cubs connection there.
All right. Make sure you follow Ryan on Twitter today. We will be doing so as well. He'll be also putting stuff at CHGO Cubs. Make sure you're subscribed. Anything else real quick?
I'm just curious if we read the super chat. Did we do this?
Oh, yeah, we read the super chat.
We did? Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. Sorry.
Thanks to everybody out there that listened today. Ryan's going to keep going. Make sure you subscribe to be a diehard. Bears are coming up at 1 o'clock, and my message to Jed Hoyer would be heading into today, don't tell me you're not out on pitchers. Don't tell me you're not out on set outfields. Don't tell me you're not out. Show me you're in on some of these things. That's what I want to see. Show me you're in on somebody.
Kyle Tucker or bust. I'm ready to be heard.
Kyle
again.
Tucker or bust. Thanks, Ryan. We'll see you tomorrow or earlier tonight. Until then, thanks for watching Fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.